Hi everyone! In this video, I'll show you how to bring motion and life into your Bricks Builder projects using Kinekt and teach you everything you need to know to start using it effectively. First of all, what is Kinekt? Kinekt is an add-on for Bricks Builder that integrates directly into the builder and gives you powerful visual animation controls without writing any code. You can create scroll or mouse-triggered animations. You can even trigger your animations by utilizing Kinekt API and Bricks interactions. You can create text and image effects or even SVG line drawings. Kinekt also lets you scrub animations with a scroller, pin elements in place, apply easing, durations, and delays, thus keeping animation smooth and under control. And if you build an animation you really like, you can save it as a preset and reuse it later. Watch this tutorial carefully. I'll share 3 to 5 one-year-round licenses if you answer the question correctly. The question with instructions can be found in this video description. To show you what Kinekt can do, I've prepared a simple homepage design for an imaginary company website. It looks clean and functional, but everything here is static and not so inviting. No movement, no interaction, just a nice layout. Now, let's take a look at the animated version of the same page to see what we are about to build with Kinekt. As you can tell, everything feels smoother, more engaging, with a layered look and feel. There's a depth to the content. It's a completely different user experience at a whole new level of presentation. So I'm about to show you how each of these elements is animated, what to be aware of when animating, when and how to create and apply presets, and teach you all about the timeline controllers, image effects, etc. etc. Some of Kinekt's controls and options will not be part of this tutorial, but rather part of another one, because it's literally impossible to cover every one of them within a reasonable time span. Let's begin with the hero section. A hero section consists of 2 images, each of which fills up one half of the viewport, and they're supposed to slide in from the viewport's horizontal center. So animation-wise, we have to animate their X position. When it comes to prerequisites, each image's parent container should have overflow hidden so that everything outside its boundaries remains out of sight. I'll choose the left image first, expand Kinekt panel, and activate Kinekt. We cannot move on unless the animation type is chosen, and for this type of animation, I'll choose From To. Kinekt knows which element type is currently selected in the editor, thus providing the list of animation types available to that particular element only. For example, you can't see text, image, or SVG line effects because they relate to a different element type. Let's set the animation duration to 1.2 seconds and the animation easing to exponential in-out. From the list of animatable properties, I'm going to select X position. Because the left image should be completely out of sight initially, the value from option or the starting X position must be at least 100%. The ending position or the value 2 should be 0, which is the default element position. Finally, we need to define the trigger point, or we have to tell Kinekt when the animation should run. So I'll say start animation when the top of the element hits the bottom of the viewport. Why? Because the animation must run immediately on page load. We are animating the hero section. And in order to run the animation immediately, our trigger point must be a pass condition. The top of the element already is past the viewport button. Now I'll select the right image, activate Kinekt for that element, choose the From To as an animation type, set the animation duration to 1.2 seconds likewise, and the animation easing will be, yet again, exponential in-out. From the list of animatable properties, I'm going to select X position again. This image is animated from the opposite side, so the starting point should now be negative 100%. The ending position, or the value 2, should be 0, which is the default element position. As for the trigger point, I'll say start animation when the top of the element hits the bottom of the viewport. Let's save and preview. Now I'm going to animate the shadow element, which is placed over the images and underneath the hero text. I also have to activate Kinekt for that element and choose From To animation type. Let's set the animation duration to 1.6 seconds and add a slight delay of 0.5 seconds so that it takes a half-second pause before it starts playing. Animation easing will be easing out for this element for a better or, let's say, distinctive visual impact. This element should move along the y-axis, so I'm going to animate its y position. It's going to start at 100% and finish at 0, which is the default position of the shadow element. Each position above the element is negative, while any position below is positive. That's the rule. As for the trigger point, I'll say start animation when the top of the element hits the bottom of the viewport, just like with our two images, and for the same reason. Hero text is another element of my hero section, so let's see how to handle this one. Now, I could animate the header text block and the button separately, but I want them all to move in a uniform fashion so they all slide up, fade in, and blur in one after another. In this case, it's much more effective to activate Kinekt on a wrapping element, TXT wrapper, and apply animation to child elements instead of deploying 3 individual animations. So I'll activate Kinekt, choose from to for the animation type, and I'm going to enable Animate Children. When this option is enabled, it'll pass all the animation settings onto its child elements. If you take a look at the structure panel, you can see that the heading, rich text, and BTN wrapper are the child elements of TXT wrapper. Animation duration will be 0.8 seconds. The delay will be slightly longer, let's say 1 second, because I want my two images animation to complete first. Animation easing will be sign in out, yet again for a better or distinctive visual impact. I already said that I want to animate the opacity property too, from fully transparent to 1. I also want to animate the blur filter from, let's say, 5 to 0. And I want to animate the Y position from 50% to 0. As for the trigger point, I'll say start animation when the top of the element hits the bottom of the viewport, so that the animation runs immediately upon the page loading. What I don't want is to run all 3 element animations at the same time. I want to add a slight pause before each subsequent element slides up. Okay, so I'm going to scroll Kinect panel all the way down to the stagger settings, and I'll add 0.2 second pause, which will actually space out the start time for every one of them. Let's now save and preview. The logo sticker or the marquee element should also be hidden initially, and I'm going to create a simple fade-in animation for that element after all other animations are completed. So I'll choose the logo sticker section and animate the opacity during a 1 second time span. I just need to add a slightly longer delay of, let's say, 2 seconds, which should be enough for each already defined animation to play out. Before we move on to the next level, let's save the work and preview once again. In the next step, I'm going to show you how to work with animation presets. The next section consists of 2 columns. The left column has 3 info cards, while the right one has a heading element, rich text, and a few icon box elements. Let's start with the text column. For the sake of consistency, I'm going to make all the heading and text animations uniform for the page I currently edit. If I added more pages to the side, I want to be able to apply the same animation style to all text elements. I'll choose the heading first, expand Kinect panel, and activate Kinect. Yet again, my animation type will be from to. Let's set the animation duration to 0.5 seconds and the animation easing to circular in-out. Because I want to animate the heading as a slide up and fade in combo, from the list of animatable properties, first I'm going to select Y position and set the initial value to 100 pixels this time. I can use any acceptable CSS unit here, including JavaScript expressions, but most likely this is a topic for a different video tutorial. The next animatable property will be opacity, and it's going to go from 0 to 1 or from fully transparent to no transparency. As for the trigger point, I'll say once again, start animation when the top of the element hits the bottom of the viewport. Like I have said before, I want this kind of animation to become standard and as such applicable to many other elements on this page or even site-wide. That's why I'll create an animation preset out of it. So I'll scroll all the way down to the bottom of Kinect panel, where the animation presets option is located, and I'll simply enter the name of my preset. Let's name it Simple Text Fade to Top. It can be any name you like, but my advice is to keep it descriptive so that you don't get lost, especially if you create a whole bunch of presets. Presets are saved on page save but not loaded for use right after. This is currently the only pitfall that affects presets, and at this point you simply have to refresh Bricks Builder to pick up newly created presets for use. I'm fully aware of such a workflow interruption and hopefully I'll be able to sort it out with the next release. Okay, now that we created our first animation preset, let's try to apply it to the rich text or on the rich text element below the heading. I'll select the rich text, expand Kinect panel, and activate Kinect. Now my animation type will not be from to, but rather a preset. From the list of presets, I'll choose the one I just created. Next element, the icon box. Just like with the hero section intro text, here I can see another opportunity to deploy the Animation Children feature to simplify things. I want to animate the white position and opacity of each icon box to achieve that slide up and fade in effect. So instead of animating each element separately, I'll create a uniform animation with a wrapping element. I just need to be sure that Animate Children is enabled. Animation duration will be 0.6 seconds. Animation easing could be sign in out. Animatable properties are white position and opacity. So the initial white position will be, let's say, 33%, and 0 is the ending point. The opacity should go from 0 to 1. As for the animation triggers, I'll use our good old start animation when the top of the element hits the bottom of the viewport. I also want to space out animation timing and add a 0.2 seconds delay for each icon box. If I scroll the page a little bit, I can see that there's another similar list in a section below. Then I could also animate case studies text in the same fashion and possibly case studies cards too, right? So there's a good opportunity to pack up this animation setting as a preset. And I'm going to name it Animate Children Fade to Top. Let's save the work and move on to animating our info cards in the left column. Now you are about to learn a little bit about animation scrubbing. Despite the fact that I could animate these 4 info cards in a uniform fashion by applying Animate Children, I rather choose not to. These info cards need to catch visitors' attention a little bit better, so I'll animate them one by one. The idea is to animate their rotation and X and Y position so that it looks like they arrange themselves from being stacked, like a stack of cards, to the grid as we scroll. Let's start with the top right info card. I'm going to activate Kinect first. Animation type will be from to. And now no other setting is needed under the animation key point section because this will be a scroll position controlled animation. As for the animation properties, I'll define rotation from 45 to 0. X position from, let's say, minus 50% to 0. And Y position from 50% to 0. I have to enable scrubbing, but the scrub amount will remain 0 because I don't need any easing effect. That's why the scrub amount is used for. I will also set the transform origin point to center because I want my info card to revolve around the center rather than any of the top or bottom corners. Animation triggers are pretty much straightforward. Start animation when the top of the element hits the bottom of the viewport. However, this time I want to end the animation as soon as the info card center hits the viewport center. So I'll say end animation when the center of the element hits the center of the viewport. The other 2 info cards should be animated in the same fashion, but with a slight difference in either rotation, X or Y position starting points. And this is exactly why I wouldn't take the path of creating a preset here. A preset is like a blueprint, and there's no way to fine-tune the blueprint. Otherwise, it wouldn't be called a blueprint, right? The last item is not an info card, but rather a decoration, and I'll animate its Y position only. Let's say from 100% to 0, but still applying scrubbing effect. And that's pretty much it. Let's save and preview what we've created so far. The next section to animate is the one with some text on the left and the image with a small CTA card on the right. The text animation will be easy because I'll use already saved presets. I'll apply simple text fade to top for the heading and the Animate Children fade to top for the icon box list. Now I want the image to zoom out from the left as I scroll, so this is going to be another scrubbed animation. So I'll select the image, expand Kinekt panel and activate Kinekt. You might think that now it's time to deploy one of the image effects, but it actually isn't. Image effects are a little bit different type of animation, and we'll get to them later on. So I'll just select from to animation type. Because the image zoom effect is meant to be scroll position controlled, I don't need any timing, delay or easing to be defined. I only have to define animatable properties. So this image should scale down by X and Y from 1.3 to 1, which means that the initial scale will be 130%, and as I scroll, the image scales down back to the original size. I need to enable scrubbing, and I want to change the transform origin point to center left. It's the point around which a transformation is applied, scaling is applied. As for the animation triggers, I have to decide when the animation starts. So I'll choose start animation when the top of the element hits the bottom of the viewport. And I'm going to end the animation when the bottom of the element hits the top of the viewport. Now I want to standardize the image appearance. I'd like to apply the same animation to each image on this page or other pages. So that's why I'll create a new preset and name it Image Zoom. That small CTA card or the image should move with a parallax. And now I'll show you how easy it is to add a parallax motion animation effect to any element. With the card wrapping element selected, expand Kinekt panel and activate Kinekt. Parallax is scroll position based, so I don't need any timing, delay or easing to be defined. I just need to animate elements Y position. It's going to be minus 50% initially and 0 when the effect ends. Of course, enable scrubbing, start animation when the top of the element hits the bottom of the viewport, and end animation when the bottom of the element hits the top of the viewport, which means that the effect will take place only inside the viewport's boundaries. Let's save the work, refresh Bricks Builder to pick up our presets and preview. In the next step, I'll teach you how to deploy the timeline controller and make your animation interactive. Now that I have a few presets created, animating individual elements boils down to choosing an appropriate preset. So a small heading here and big text below will both use simple text fade to top. The image on the left will use the image zoom preset, just like the smaller image on the right hand side. What you can see only partially here behind the image is a video. That shouldn't look that bad. I have no idea why Bricks Builder rendered it so badly in the editor. But anyhow, it'll be just fine on front end. So the idea here is to turn that play button, which is actually not a button element, into a timeline controller. Once that play button is clicked, I want the big image and quotes element to slide out to the left, and at the same time, the video element slide in from the right. To spice it up a little bit more, I want to change the green background to black in sync with the content swap. So I'll create my first animation of image and quotes. Select the position shift element and enable Kinekt. Animation type will be again from to. Animation ID will be image and quotes. And this animation will be paused, which means that it will not be affected by the scroll position and it will not need any trigger point. And if I scroll down the Kinekt panel a bit, you'll see that a bunch of options are gone due to that fact. Animation duration will be 0.5 seconds and the easing type will be circular in-out. Because this element should slide out to the left, I'll animate its X position, which starts at 0, default position of the element, and it'll go to minus 120%. I will also animate the opacity from 1 to 0 to make the animation a bit softer. Now I'll choose the video element, enable Kinekt, animation type will be from to again, animation ID will be video action, and this will also be a paused animation. Animation duration will be 0.5 seconds and the easing type should be circular in out. I made this animation a little bit shorter on purpose, so there will be a very slight element overlap when the animation plays. The video element should slide in from the right, so I have to animate X position again. And because the video should be off the visible area initially, its starting X position is now positive 100 or 120%. I also animate the opacity from 0 to 1. And now I just need to animate the background color of my wrapping element. Select the element and enable Kinekt. Animation type will be from to. Animation ID will be wrapper BG color. And this animation will be paused as well. Animation duration 0.6 seconds with a slight pause of 0.3 seconds. Why? Because I want the animation and quotes element to almost slide out first, then do the color swap. Easing type will be circular in out. As for the animatable properties, I'll choose background color. The value from will remain empty because the default background color will be used as the initial color. And the ending value will be black. Now I'll select the play icon wrapping element and activate Kinekt. By the way, the icon element is one of the few that can't be animated directly, and you won't find Kinect panel for that particular element, so the icon element. There are technical reasons for that case, but you can simply wrap it out with a div or block element and animate the wrapping element instead, just like I did here. From the animation type, I'll select timeline controller. Mouse click will be the timeline trigger event. For a click handler, I choose play in reverse indefinitely, which will make my animation play in reverse with each subsequent click. For the animation ID, I'll add all 3 animation IDs I created in my previous steps. So image and quote, video action, and wrapper BG color. Be careful here, animation IDs are case sensitive. The execution mode option defines if animations are going to be played all at once or sequentially, one after another. I want them to run at the same time, so I'll select simultaneous from the list. Let's say the work in preview. In the next step, I'll show you how image effects work and what to be aware of when using them. With the next section, I can easily deploy presets to the majority of elements on stage, except the big background image, which will be the target of image parallax effect. So the text on the left will use the Animate Children Fade to Top preset, just like all the cards in the right column. All the card images will use the Image Zoom preset. Now I select the background image element and enable Kinekt for it. For the animation type, I choose Image Effects. I'll skip all the settings under animation key points because image effects are scroll position controlled by nature. I could have defined them actually, but in this case they would do more harm than good. Feel free to experiment. Under image effects, I'll select Parallax and add some volume to it. That option actually scales up the image and determines how much motion will be added to the parallax. I'll use 30, which means that the image will be scaled up by 30%. The more you add, the less of the image is visible, at the expense of quality, of course. I found the sweet spot to be between 20 and 30. Direction will be vertical, it can be horizontal as well, and the panning shall be negative. This option defines whether the image moves up or down in a parallaxed fashion. Now I need to pay your attention to one mandatory setting which belongs to the Bricks Builder scope rather than Kinekt. You need to be sure that under the Content main tab, The image element, which is the target of the image effect, uses an HTML tag. It can be figure, div, or any other custom-defined tag, but it has to be there, otherwise image effects will not function. So if you notice image effects don't work, it's certainly because you forgot to define an HTML tag. Finally, I'll save my animation settings to a new preset named Vertical Image Parallax, because I want to use it again with the CTA section in the page bottom. Before the final preview, I'll save my work and refresh Bricks Builder because I just created a new preset which is needed right away. Okay, now I'll quickly apply presets to the remaining sections on this page. So users rating will use simple text fade to top, just like the rich text and the author's name. The CTA text can be animated as Animate Children fade to top, and the background image will use our newly created Vertical Image Parallax preset. Let's now save and do the final preview. Finally, let me briefly explain how to manage your animation presets. So far, we have created a few of them. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that presets can be deleted, exported, or imported. Kinekt add-on keeps track of presets on a separate WordPress admin page, and you can find them under OP Kinekt presets page. Everything should be pretty much self-explanatory here, except maybe the animation ID column. So that column provides an ID for each preset, which can be used with the timeline controllers. If you recall, when creating a timeline controlled animation, you need to provide the animation ID and pause that animation. Because the animation ID must be unique on a page, just like any HTML element ID, a preset created from a timeline controlled animation can't keep the original animation ID. That's why the system creates a new unique ID which you can find in the animation ID column. The presets manager allows you to import and export presets in a JSON format, so you can exchange presets between sites, exchange them with coworkers, or even sell them for fun. Let's now get back to Bricks Builder for a moment and choose an element that we created a preset from. Let's choose the future of farming heading element. As you know, presets are saved on page save. And as long as you keep the preset name in its input field unchanged, that very preset gets updated if you change any of the animation settings, which also means that animation settings are updated for each element using that particular preset. So if you want to create a preset and prevent any further updates of that preset, be sure to delete the preset name right after you created it. In order to edit a certain preset settings in the future, simply enter back its original name and save the preset. Hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial and most of all, got an idea of what Kinekt can do for you and how to start animating bricks element. Like I said, I'll share 3 to 5 single-site licenses which allow you to play with Kinekt features for a whole year and receive updates on a regular basis. What you need to do is answer the following question correctly. Which element type in Bricks Builder cannot be directly animated by Kinekt? I mentioned one of them. If you watch this video carefully, it won't be a problem to provide correct answer. Please read the video description below to find out how to supply the answer. Other than that, stay well, peace and love.